the NutriMedical Report. The amazing hour on Mondays is the StopTheCrime.net Deborah Tavares hour, and she's got lots of important information. And as I say in her document minigun, she's got lots of good things. This time, she's actually going to tell you things to avoid and become aware of. So, Deborah, let's start from the top. And of course, you have to be sitting down. You don't fall down. You have to have your trace elbow in the locked and upright position and your seatbelt on informationally. And sometimes I like to say that you're what I call a end times stand-up comedian. Other times you're just giving information out to tell people how to protect themselves from craziness, which isn't a theory because they have to read the documents which you have, and you have lots on your site.
That's absolutely
please continue.
true. So what I want to talk about today are very important. I'm going to be moving into a bigger story by coming out with a few stories to go into that. First of all, in the San Diego newspaper, the Mission Valley News, that was October 19th of 2018, the headlines read, "Pure Water Moves Forward, Construction Beginning Soon." So now let's break that down. First of all, it's very important to not be fooled by the word pure water. It's recycled. It's from sewer treatment plants. So the program, they say, will offer a cost-effective investment for San Diego's water needs and will provide reliable, sustainable water supply. Pure water will eventually recycle up to over 83 million gallons of water a day once the project is completed. And they say that the first phase of pure water is scheduled to begin construction in 2019 and serve up toilet to tap, my words, by the year 2020. They say,
and you know, my new word that I invented for you is called Sewercide.
Well, that's exactly it. So now what's important about this is to understand the words, pure water. It is not pure water. It is fecal matter from human beings and urine from everything. So
and also toxic chemicals, birth control pills, cardiac drugs, etc., right?
Yeah, now let me get going because everyone needs to first understand all the advancements of advancing water into our cities now is the intention. It's literally water of death. So we're going to go moving on. Here's another article breaking, October 20th, 2018. City sewage plant poses danger, needs refurbishing. Let's look at this one. This is out of Madera, which is in Central California. And there's a photograph that shows a sewer treatment plant. And the city sewage plant shows how hydrogen sulfide has eroded the concrete walls down to the rebar, some of which has disappearing, according to a hired consultant to inspect the system. They go on to say that the Madera wastewater treatment plant, a.k.a. sewage plant, is again approaching disaster with the potential failure of another key component, the concrete wet wall. The massive tank that collects and holds city sewage just prior to processing, according to emergency repair study just recently performed, goes on to say, with its decaying infrastructure, the plant, which is situated off of a major highway and processes from 7 million gallons as much to 10 million gallons of sewer per day, and is barely keeping up with increasing population demands. Some parts of the sewer plant and holding tanks were recently deemed unsafe. Goes on. The wetland supports 3 massive vertical turbine pumps on the top slab. Each weighs over 5 tons and 30-inch columns, and it's now considered unsafe. They're saying the operators should stay off the slab to the extent possible until the structural remediation measures can take place. And it's identified as more severe than originally thought. The city barely dodged a bullet in mid-2017 after 3 of the plant's massive gears, which power the pumps and churning the sewerage effluent, failed, and 2 others had to undergo costly emergency retrofit. They go on to say, repair and reline the existing concrete walls of the old existing tank will cost between $600,000 and $700,000. And they go on to say, the observers of the city's operations said they were surprised at the situation, which they attributed to poor planning and apparent neglect. And here's what one of the members from the city council said when the city council was presented with this information. Where is the accountability? This reaches the level of investigation. Possible malpractices could be involved here, and more. Somebody wasn't doing their job. Without a working sewer plant, you don't even have a functional city. They go on to say that this would have prevented the city from flushing their toilets. So, moving on. Again, we have a YouTube up on stopthecrime.net. It's called Sewer Poop Tour. So by going on this sewer poop tour, you will be able to see what this article was referring to as far as sewer holding tanks. Now, why am I telling all of you this? I just divulged that San Diego is moving in with a scheme called Pure Water. I've also just talked about a sewage treatment plant that is now failing. Now I'm going to read you again, under the failing sewage treatment plant article, under a photograph, it says, and I want you to remember this, the wet wall at the city's sewage treatment plants shows how hydrogen sulfide has eroded the concrete walls down to the rebar. Hydrogen sulfide.
Wow.
Now let's look at this.
Wow.
Hydrogen sulfide is more toxic than carbon monoxide, almost equivalent in toxicity to hydrogen cyanide, which is used in criminal executions. Hydrogen sulfide is taken directly into the lungs during respiration when it enters into the bloodstream. When the concentrations of hydrogen sulfide build up in the blood and nerve centers in the brain that control breathing, the breathing and you're paralyzed and asphyxiation occurs. This will be fatal within a minute or so to humans and animals by absorption through the lungs. Studies have also showed that it is possible to absorb the chemical through ingestion, but it is only moderately soluble and thus mostly a hazard in its gaseous phase. If absorbed into the body, the hydrogen sulfide is primarily released through urine. So, Dr. Bill, I am reading this definition out of the causes of hydrogen sulfide that is emitted from a gas from the geothermal plant. And this is what it says in this document from the geothermal operations. And it says it's released in the urine. That would likely explain why, or could explain why, they're saying that hydrogen sulfide has eroded the concrete down to the rebar in the sewer plant. Because where does our urine go? Now it's going to our drinking water. So let's talk about that, because I just talked about pure water, which is sewer water in San Diego, being served up. I've just talked about the city's sewage treatment plant that is corroding as a result of hydrogen sulfide. I just read to you out of a geothermal document about geothermal plants, the toxicity level of hydrogen sulfide and how it's used in criminal execution. And there's going to be more on the other side of this break. You won't believe it.
Amazing.
So stay tuned.
Absolutely amazing. Shocking truth. Back in a moment, please go to stopthecrime.net.
And we have Deborah here. Deborah, what's the solution? Of course, we have pure water system.
even if you have a well, you want to get testing done, and you've done it on your wells. You want to make sure there's no contaminated heavy metals, fluoride, or other toxins, because sometimes the groundwater is contaminated because they're actually pumping dirty water back into the ground too, aren't they?
Well, and when you listen to the sewer poop tour, you will find out that the city of Santa Rosa here in Northern California, as in most of your areas where you have water sewer treatment plants, they've bought up about 1,100 acres around the 60 acres of sewer treatment plant where they actually have rainbirds that they spray out the treated sewer water. But I want to read more out of this geothermal document, and then I've got to get into something really important. So listen carefully. You heard me say in the first segment, recycled water reduces the efficiency to remove hydrogen sulfide. And again, I told you that hydrogen sulfide is more toxic than carbon monoxide and almost equivalent in its toxicity to hydrogen cyanide, which is used in criminal executions. And I told you, too, in this document, which is what I'm reading from, hydrogen sulfide is taken directly into the lungs during respiration when it enters the bloodstream. The document also tells us that when it's absorbed into the body, the hydrogen sulfide is primarily released through urine. We also talked about the sewage treatment plant in Central California that is dangerous and on the verge of not being able to be used. The city, literally, they say there will not be a functional city if the sewage treatment plant goes down. And because of neglect and the fact that they say that hydrogen sulfide eroded the concrete walls down to the rebar. This is just hot off the press, October 20th.
Which sewage treatment plant and where was that located again?
It's the Madera Wastewater Treatment Facility, Madera. And you can read this article.
And is it in Northern California? Where is it located?
Yes, it's closer to Sacramento area. And
right, okay.
The title of this article is City Sewage Plant Poses Danger, Needs Refurbishing. Now, this will be up on stopthecrime.net, but for those of you, you can type it in and find this for yourself. But this
let me throw something else in there. Let me throw something else that I think you want to respond to.
I've got the main cluncher, though, of what I wanted to expose.
Okay, well, let me throw this before you do your cluncher. Is none of the treatment plants for sewage in any of the Western world have backup power. Please continue.
Okay. Well, that's a problem, and we're going to talk about that after I talk about this. Okay, last Friday, on October 19th of 2018, there was a presidential memorandum that was released. I started looking at the discussions that the Associated Press and the Central Valley here in Northern California for the farmers in their press releases were saying about this memorandum. They were saying, finally, we're going to get help and get the much-needed water that we've needed to grow the crops here in the Central Valley. And there were great they were celebrating this, absolutely celebrating this. And it felt concerning to me because that's not what I've seen the White House back. The White House is backing sustainability, resilience, and smart cities, which is all about reverting to sewage water for water purposes. Many other things, of course, too. But it is all around using sewer water.
So what are they saying? Under the Trump administration, they're pushing this Resilient Cities United Nations plan, which gives us sewer water or Sewercide.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly what they said. Now, I actually went to the memorandum. I wasn't listening or taking verbatim what they were saying in the various newspaper reportings, and I would like everyone to do this too. I will be blasting this out on stopthecrime.net, but I'm going to break it down for everyone that's listening right now. So very important, you can type in for yourselves White House memorandum. that's called Promoting the Reliable Supply and Delivery of Water in the West. Now, let's go through this. This is breaking it down. Very, very important to know that what Trump said in Arizona right after he signed this memorandum, and I quote, "I hope you enjoy the water that you're going to have." Now, let's talk about the water that he has signed us onto. And it's important to understand the disinformation around the title of this memorandum, again, called Promoting the Reliable Supply and Delivery of Water in the West. It's the same line as San Diego saying they're going to serve up pure water. Because what is happening here in this current administration, and it wouldn't matter who it was, we're being poisoned. This is death by water. So let's talk about this. Here are some excerpts of the memorandum and the breakdown from our comments. First, we advise everyone to not be fooled by titles. Promoting reliable water supply and delivery of water in the West. This memorandum is not at all what the title implies. That's why it's so important to read the documents and read the entire document. Don't go by the headlines. So here's what some of the document says, and this is how we're responding to it because this is what the document says. We're being told that decades of uncoordinated, piecemeal regulatory actions have diminished the ability of our federal infrastructure to deliver water in an efficient and cost-effective way. This is a quote out of that memorandum. Now, here we're breaking it down. Okay, let's break this down. The Secretary of the Interior and the Secretary of Commerce are to be provided with proposals reducing and streamlining regulations and procedures that burden the water infrastructure challenges in the western United States. Burden, they tell us in the memorandum, means to unnecessarily obstruct, delay, curtail, impede, or otherwise impose significant costs on permitting processes. The memorandum creates deadlines for actions, and sub-deadlines are required by January of 2019. So why the deadline rush? While this rush may sound like action is finally being taken to provide farmers with the water they need, you will learn that the actions are aimed at serving up toxic water to the public, fish, and all else whose survival depends on water, and throwing unimaginable sums of money at these killer water deployments using sewer wastewater treatment and water desalination. We're all being tricked. We're not reading and understanding what the CEO of USA Inc. is really saying. And I will remind you, he said, quote, "I hope you enjoy the water that you're going to have." Now let's continue.
So those are the words of Trump Pinocchio, right?
Yes,
which
that
is our Pinocchio president.
He is the CEO of USA Inc., and we're going to continue with this on the other side of the break.
Maybe Lucifer is in touch with Donald Trump, and they're coming forward. I hope you like your new water. Oh, my God. This
as
is
we
like
were saying, Trump said, quote, "I hope you enjoy the water that you're going to have." So I want to continue on with this memorandum because it's been broken down incorrectly by the fake media, which, of course, I can agree with some of the assertions of the CEO of USA Inc. about fake media, but there's more fakeness than just the media. So let's continue. Right. The memorandum, okay, so we're being tricked by not reading and understanding what the CEO of USA Inc. is really waging and what he's really saying. The chair of the Council on Environmental Quality in the Executive Office of the President shall be given regular updates from the Secretary of the Interior and the Secretary of Commerce on progress of monitoring water supplies and advancing water deliveries regularly. So regular updates on the expeditious deployment of new water services. Okay, so let's continue. The President also wants improved weather. We're talking about weather research and forecasting of water availability. Really? Do you think he does not know about the geoengineering operation, which is the deliberate large-scale manipulation of the Earth's climate? Of course he knows. The memorandum requires water experts and resource managers to deliver an action plan related to water availability and water infrastructure projects. No mention of primary water, which is the clean, renewable, God-given water resource. Please watch the YouTube Primary Water Explained. Please watch that YouTube Primary Water Explained. Go on. And maybe the president needs to watch it too. He must know about primary water. After all, USA Inc. and NATO blew up the great man-made river project in Libya, the eighth wonder of the world, which delivered
the Americans and the British, right?
Which delivered
American and British jets blew it up, right?
The U.S. and NATO blew up the great man-made river project, and it threw the Libyan people into a humanitarian crisis because Muammar Gaddafi had put in this labyrinth of plumbing in the desert using oil revenue and profits for his people and was delivering quite a bit of the primary water to his people for free. So again, in this memorandum, they want to improve the use of technology to increase water reliability to the maximum extent possible by using reclaimed, recycled sewer water for drinking, along with expensive desalination projects where the sludge will create hazardous environmental ramifications. Further, investments, many dollars, are to be made to rapidly deliver sewer water and to reduce regulatory burdens to enable broader scales of development of the toxic water to all of us. That's what this memorandum is saying. Investment in water management by using real-time. Also, this is what he's saying too. He wants metering on everything. So here's what our take is on that.
This is scary metering. Please get into it.
Yeah. In the memorandum, it talks about investments in water management by using real-time, all the time, water monitoring of wildlife and water deliveries where every drop of water extracted will be monitored. This monitoring requirement is the AMI, the Advanced Metering Infrastructure, a.k.a. wireless smart water meters. These wireless water meters will further add another layer of frequencies of death in all of our communities. Also, these meters will track and limit water consumption based upon restrictions imposed in groundwater allotment and usage schemes. And then I want everybody in this memorandum to look at item C of the memorandum for the wildlife quote that I mentioned, monitoring wildlife. And you may wonder why monitoring wildlife would be included in the memorandum. Well, we're going to leave that up to all of you to consider. I'm not going to break that down. We're not going to break that down. You just imagine why they want to monitor wildlife and the intention of poisoning the water. So as outlined in the memorandum, these new speedy policies to promote reliable water supplies and monitor deliveries to America West is clearly centralized privatization of all water resources and the poisoning of drinking water through technologies that are designed to cause sickness and death. So when you read in the memorandum, quote, this is a quote, work together to minimize, I'm going to start over, quote, work together to minimize unnecessary regulatory burdens and foster more efficient decision-making so that water projects are better able to meet the demands of their authorized purposes. Authorized purposes. Think about that. What are their authorized purposes? Reducing the population by improving water technologies that are toxic, costly, and deadly. Remember, the treated sewer wastewater contains contaminants of emerging concern and known pharmaceutical poisons. Conclusion. Now this brings us back to the diabolical memorandum that I hope all of you will read to yourself.
Who read this memorandum now? Who read it?
I read it.
No, who read it on the news? Like, was this a document that you got?
It's been discussed in various newspapers in the Central Valley and given great admiration by the farmers.
But this document came out of the White House, or
It came out of the White House. It's being requested to be turned into an executive order, but it's a memorandum. And again,
you're kidding.
Everyone can find this.
Sounds pretty luciferic to me.
I will read the top of the actual memorandum in a moment, but I just want to conclude my assessment of it by saying, remember, in this diabolical memorandum, we have to go back to Trump's quote, wherein he stated, quote, "I hope you enjoy the water that you're going to have," end quote. So we have available to us safe, pure, clean, renewable water called primary water. And I'm asking everyone to go to primarywater.org and, of course, listen to the video Primary Water Explained. And I want to just go over a couple facts. I'm looking at this memorandum as it was signed by Trump. And it says the White House, Office of the Press Secretary for immediate release, October 19th of 2018, and memorandum for the Secretary of the Interior, the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Energy, the Secretary of the Army, the Chair of the Council on Environmental Quality. Subject, promoting the reliable supply and delivery of water in the West. So I've broken it down for all of you. Under items A, B, and C, approximately the third or fourth page in, it says what I broke down in my synopsis, but I'll read it to you as it says verbatim in this memorandum. A says, investment in technology and reduction of regulatory burdens to enable broader scale deployment of desalination technology. Number B, investment in technology and reduction of regulatory burdens to enable broader scale use of recycled water. Number C, investment in programs that promote and encourage innovation, research, and development of technology that improve water management using best available science through real-time monitoring of wildlife and water deliveries. That's water metering. Make no mistake, this is a diabolical plan to implement toxic sewer water and monitor and charge us more. So now let's look at a document that we found about the purpose of metering. And this is out of a document, and then I've got to jump into another hot
Keep that thought. We'll be right back in a moment. Deborah, that's what a story today. Amazing. You better be aware of this. And it's under the Trump administration, they're moving forward. Almost 40 visits by the Resilient Cities Project, United Nations, with Barack Obama and the New World Order and the toxic Sewercide, hydrocide is coming. And we're coming back with Deborah. You got lots of more important information. This is scary. I mean, if Trump knows this, he's complicit with a very evil scheme, isn't he?
Well, he signed this memorandum, and it's the same type of rush that he signed with the executive order about deploying broadband throughout the United States to get it to all farms. So he's deploying genocidal schemes. Of course he is. So I need to move on, though, because we don't need to discuss what is going on out of the White House, because many of us, of course, know that the White House doesn't serve us. It's run by the United Nations, the globalists, and the overlords that are taking orders from evil demonic beings.
I want to insert a little joke here. If you're a shrimp, it doesn't matter if you're flambéed or sautéed, you're for dinner.
Well, you know, that's one way to look at it. So now I want to get into this a bit, and then in the program today with some new news that I think is going to shock everybody as well. I want to let everyone know, please sign up on stopthecrime.net to get our email blasts and also go to our YouTube channel regularly. We will be posting very soon the tour of the largest geothermal operation in the world. And
Really?
you're going to see how diabolical that is. I'm going to do some discussion and insert that in front of the tour itself so that you'll understand the enormity of what geothermal represents. I will tell you this. Geothermal is the plan where they can access geothermal in the Ring of Fire, like they did the Puna in Hawaii, the Puna geothermal location that likely caused the eruption, the volcanic eruption. So I would refer everyone to watch this YouTube. You can find it on stopthecrime.net on our YouTube channel, but I would recommend everyone watch it because you're going to hear more of this from us here in Northern California about the intention.
It can also trigger off major quakes, too, can't it?
Yes, it can.
We had one off Tofino, British Columbia, 151 miles, 6.8 quake today in Canada. And people have to understand the Ring of Fire is moving down toward Northern California, and putting frack sewer water into these geysers could precipitate a mega quake, couldn't it?
That's exactly right. And so the YouTube I would like everyone to watch is entitled Evidence Grows That Hawaii Volcanic Eruption Caused by the Puna, P-U-N-A, Geothermal Venture. So I want everybody to watch that because what you're going to hear from us is the same thing with the geyser here in Northern California that is operated by Rothschild also, the same as in the Puna geothermal venture in Hawaii. So I want to just quickly go over a few more things about geothermal, and then I want to break another story. Okay, about geothermal. We dug up documents out of El Salvador because there is a geothermal, two operations there. They actually relocated, or I should say there were 21 families that were homeless. They relocated them within 800 feet of a new borehole that they were drilling to test to see how the hydrogen sulfide would affect these people. And they've been reporting that they haven't been well. They haven't been feeling well. So
You're kidding.
I'll get into more of this when you see the YouTube up of our tour, because what is occurring with this hydrogen sulfide that they are emitting more of in the atmosphere when they drill to utilize the gases from the earth is unimaginable what is occurring. And they're saying that this is going to become a staple of increasing electricity. But
I'll tell you something else. It'll destroy the ozone layer, too.
I want to
These gases are the most nasty destructor of the ozone layer. Please continue.
Yes, and I want to say this. There's another plan now afoot, well into its making, for additional farming of Mother Nature as we once knew Mother Nature. And I'm going to tell you what this is. They're going to be and want to put wind farms along the California coast. And this is just hot off the press as well. This is, again, October 20th of 2018. The title of this is Wind Farms Might Be Rising Off the California Coast. So California is pursuing an electric grid fully powered by renewable energy sources, and it's heading in a new direction offshore. The U.S. Interior, now remember, the U.S. Interior Department is the same department that Trump is going to putting in charge with the water, the poisoning of the water supply. So again, the U.S. Interior Department took the first steps to enable companies to lease waters in Central and Northern California for wind projects. If all goes well, the state's regulators and utilities, which is Rothschild Utilities,